should work. Right. So, namaste and welcome to the Sunday service. So, about 4 years ago, I had a very sacred meeting called a darshan with my spiritual teacher, Swami Purna. And in that darshan, or meeting, he asked me to leave my old life, renounce everything that I had built up to that point, and set out on the road and share these sorts of talks and the energy of grace with others. So I went home that time, and that was a retreat in Florida. I went back home at that time. It was Austin, Texas, and proceeded to have a little garage sale in my apartment and gave away the majority of my material things, and then bought a van, put a bed in the van, and then started out on the road and traveled from city to city to city, holding talks at different churches and yoga studios and holistic centers, spiritual centers. And for 3 years straight, I traveled. And it was a grand adventure. I got to meet many beautiful people. So the reason why I tell you this story is because I found my purpose. That's the topic today. I had to remember. And I said, what's my topic today? What is your purpose? What is your purpose? When something resonates with you so profoundly, it's undeniable, you have to follow it. It's like following your heart. It strikes to the core of your heart and it's undeniable. You must follow it. It pulls you. And so, when I first met my spiritual teacher, Swami Purna, in 2008, he walked into the room. There was this retreat in New York City. It was a bookstore. He walked into the room and I just started to cry. And I was so moved. Literally, it felt like my soul was moved to the core. And it seemed for no reason. That's when you know it's a good thing. When your mind doesn't engage and say, well, what's happening here? You know how our mind always tries to figure things out. In this case, there was no reason why I was moved, but I was so touched. And my life from that point on was never the same. That is why when he asked me to release my old material life, we'll call it the American dream, for lack of better words, and set out on the road, I was very eager and happy to follow his guidance. So my purpose, I felt, was based upon what moved my heart, what moved my soul. When I came across that, I decided that I would follow that and that nothing would stop me. So when you look at it and you come to whatever, a gathering or something happens to you in your life that moves your heart, you know you're going in the right direction. And the question is does your mind get in and say, well, you need to think about this rationally now, Brian. Do you really want to let go of all your material things and your home and travel in an uncomfortable van? By the way, the van's name was Persistence. And travel about and live in other people's homes. What an uncomfortable journey. It's like kind of like The Hobbit, you know, at the beginning of The Hobbit says, adventures, they're uncomfortable things. I want nothing to do with it. That's the idea of The Hobbit. Hobbit wants to be very comfortable in his little house. And so I was happy to stay in my house and meditate all day long and, you know, be in blissful states of consciousness. But that was not my destiny. That was not where my soul was guiding me. So along the way, I happened to reach out to Danelle. And I said, Danelle, I've been traveling about and I thought maybe I could share this energy with the service or, you know, with common ground. And Danelle, very boldly, said yes. We would like to have you there, even though she knew nothing about me. Great leap of faith. And then I came, and then that's how it all started to happen. And that's why I've been coming back here. So I want to tell you a story about purpose. And it's kind of it's a roundabout way of describing what is our true purpose in this life. So there was a great elephant named Gajendra. And Gajendra was the king of the elephants. And he had many wives and many brothers and many sisters and many kids. And they all followed him through this sort of beautiful forest. And it was on this paradise island. And Gajendra, all the animals were kind of scared of him because he was such a powerful being. And he'd be tromping through the forest, and one day he was tromping through the forest and he got really thirsty. And he was thinking about, I need water. And so he started to quicken his pace, searching for some place to get water. And then after a while, he was actually running through the forest, and all the little animals were getting out of his way as Gajendra was running through the forest, and he broke through the forest and onto this beautiful white beach. And there was a lake that was covered in the pollen of lotus flowers. So beautiful. And he immediately ran to the lake, into the depths of the lake, and started to drink his fill of this lotus pollen lake. Just drinking and drinking, and it was so lovely. He drank more and more and more, and he got so focused on drinking the water that he did not notice down below in the depths a great crocodile named Maya grabbed onto one of his legs and started to pull him down into the depths of the water. And Gajendra, pulling, starting to struggle and fight against this crocodile named Maya. And for 1,000 years, Gajendra fought bravely against the crocodile in the water. And this was the domain of the mighty crocodile, no longer Gajendra's domain. So together they fought, and after 1,000 years of fighting, Gajendra began to get tired. And he started to slip into the deeper parts of the water. And he realized, I'm in trouble. I can't win against this. And out on shore were his brothers and his sisters and his mother, his father, and everyone out on shore, watching him helpless in the struggle in this lake. They couldn't do a thing to rescue Gajendra. And Gajendra looked out and he saw his family. And he too realized that none of them could actually save him from the grips of the crocodile that was taking him down. And he himself was losing his life, the mighty Gajendra. And then he thought to himself, who can help me? Who can help me? And in that moment, he remembered his Lord. He remembered God. And in this case, the name of God for him was Narayan. Narayan for him was the name of God. He remembered. And he thought to himself, but if I call forth my God, I must first give him something. Well, what should I give him? And Gajendra looked about, and he saw floating past him a pink lotus flower. And as the water was spilling into his mouth, and he was ready to die, and he had no more hope, he went and he reached with his trunk, and he picked up the pink lotus flower, and he held it to the sky, and he says, "O Lord, O Narayan, I am dying now. This is the end of my life. You are my only hope. You are the only one that can rescue me. None of my family, none of my brothers or sisters, or mother or father, friends, none of them can help me. You are the only one Please, please help me, rescue me. And so here he was, holding the flower to the sky, and Narayan, living in the heavenly realms, in the blissful realms, blissful states of consciousness, heard his devotee immediately, and he was sitting with his consort together in a blissful realm. And the moment he hears the call of his dearly beloved devotee, he rushes down to earth without even taking his steed. His steed, by the way, was an eagle called Garuda. He left his steed behind and he raced down to earth, and he got there and he saw Gajendra, and he took his chakra, which was his weapon, and he threw it at the crocodile and cut the crocodile away. Took the flower from Gajendra's trunk and rescued the mighty elephant from the waters and from Maya. And all the celestial singers sang together in praise of Lord Narayan, of the Lord. And there's actually a beautiful song in honor of that. So I'm going to sing it, since I oftentimes include music. I'm going to sing it for you, and you can sing it with me as you like. It's a very holy mantra, and the mantra is Narayan Shri Narayan. So listen to this for a moment and see if you can tune in to the energy of the mantra, and you can sing it with me as they sang in devotion to Narayan. Narayan Shri Narayan, 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 Shri Narayan, Shri Narayan, Shri Narayan, Shri Narayan, Shri Narayan, Shri And so what is our purpose but to praise the greatness of the Lord, the power of the Lord, that which created our very thoughts, our very body, our very intelligence, that extraordinary power that made all of this alive, all of this possible, common ground, the world, the galaxy, the universe, all dimensions, all time, all space, that power from whence all it came, to spend one's life singing praises to that which created me and all of this wonder. What a life worth living. Isn't it strange that many people forget where they came from? lose sight of their creator. The sort of miracle that these beings are actually breathing, living, eating, speaking, intelligence, and the varieties of expression, all of that coming from the source. Why wouldn't you praise that divinity that created you constantly, all day long? And the amazing thing is, the more that you do that, the more that we spend time actually remembering that, thinking about that, the more we become in tune with that. The more states of love and bliss and joy come through, because we're starting to feel the underlying essence of things, which is true happiness, what I call truth, the truth of things. Because it is said that the truth of who you are is pure bliss, pure happiness, pure love, sort of in the very nature of the soul itself. So every day, instead of walking around and saying, I'm a body and I'm going to do things today, you say, I am a soul. I'm not the body. I am the eternal soul. And not only that, but I bow down to that soul that makes this life animated. I bow down to that every single day, continuing to attune to that power. And one day, all of your problems, all of your pains, all of your issues, everything, all of that is gone. And all there is God. So this is what I feel our purpose is. And it's just only forgotten. Because there's no rule book that says, that you give the baby and the baby and it says, oh, praise God. That's it? It can't be that simple. And then so, of course, then we go through the whole rigmarole, I don't even know how to say it, of like trying to achieve all of these goals in life, to win the perfect, beautiful princess, to get the finest job, to eat the great, most delicious foods, to travel to the most beautiful countries. All along, we're like going from places. You know what I mean by like a bucket list? A bucket list, like I want to do all these things, so I've got to do all these things before I die. Maybe somewhere down there, oh, God? You know, very few come into the world and say God first. Jesus said, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all shall be given unto you. Why worry about life and how life actually turns out or goes? Right? That's secondary concern. That's like minor. We've all lived hundreds of thousands of lifetimes doing the same thing over and over, eating the same foods, going out to the same restaurants, watching the same movies, doing the same thing over and over and over again. And one day, you're dying. You're on your deathbed, like Gajendra. And then you remember what I'm here for. And then you start to sing, oh Lord, please come to me. I realize I forgot what I came here for. That's the power of Gajendra's story. Oftentimes it takes us to get to death's bed before we realize what's really true. Because we're too weak to even go out to those Caribbean islands to have those fine pelican drinks. I don't know what you call them. We're too weak to even do that. So what are we left with? Ourself. Oh gosh, I can't be with myself. Let me turn on the TV. It's too hard to be with ourselves. But that's the thing. It's like that's what God is trying to say. Look, the one person that you're left with, when all your family members cannot save you anymore, is your own self. Where do you put your heart? Do you put your heart in the things that moths do eat, where rust it lives, where mold lives, where everything ends at one time. It will sooner or later end, including this body. But what is eternal? The soul. What is eternal? So seeking that with all of your heart, all of your mind, every action, every thought, every emotion, seeking that, the purpose of life. Again, the baby doesn't come up with a manual that says seek the soul. The baby grows up and sees all this action around and is kind of puzzled going, well, they say I should become a doctor or a lawyer, maybe an astronaut. That sounds kind of fun. Mm-hmm. Or whatever society is sort of programming the baby to do. And then all the other stuff, like say seeing invisible fairies or different visions of like other realms. No, don't believe in that. And so then it becomes suppressed in this sort of baby, in this child that has all these gifts and talents, all those sort of more profound understandings and realizations and experiences get suppressed, and then I get out in the world and I have to fend for myself and protect myself and get a good job so that I can make a lot of money so I can be comfortable. And then I'll have lots of kids and then grandkids, and at the end my grandkids will take care of me, hopefully. And then I'll die and I'll be happy. And then that comes over and over again. Not that we can't do that, but like, what's the overall context? What makes even any of that possible? Do you see my contemplation? It always comes back to, I have a thought. So I had a thought. Is it mine? Who created that thought? Where does that thought actually come from? I had an experience. I saw something. Where does that come from? Always taking a step back and wondering where all of this actually appears from. The source of our being. That is the contemplation. That's what we're trying to find out. And then once we get so absorbed into this contemplation, we dissolve into that presence. And then there is only the one. And there's a realization that there was never me and the rest of the world. There was only the one infinite presence, the one infinite God that runs through all characters and makes them alive, to making the magic picture show. The Beatles called it the Magical Mystery Tour. I think that was their name for it. The Magical Mystery Tour right before your eyes. And the challenge is, do I see it as separate, or do I see everything as God? And they say, the only real teaching that you need to know is that there is only God. What else do you need to know? In fact, that's kind of a joyful statement. Then what is there to worry or fear about anymore, right? It's like very comforting. And people say, well, God is infinite and is everything and everywhere. But it seems like people are not acting that way. That person hit me on the freeway. I'm so mad today. How could they do that? Well, I thought everything was God. Oh yeah, I forgot. And so it's always like a constant forgetting. That's why you come to common ground. That's why you come to spiritual gatherings, because it's always a reminder that the Lord is everywhere and is everyone. Peering through all the eyes, thinking all the thoughts, tasting through all the tongues, hearing through all the ears. That is the Lord. Not I am separate from the world and I'm going to make something of myself, which is exactly what children are usually taught. You got to make something of yourself, Johnny. You're going to be something one day. Well, I'm not enough right now. And so my feeling is, if we remember the spiritual teachings every moment of the day, or as long as we can, maybe you have a screensaver that comes up and says everything is God. Oh my gosh, my screensaver reminded me. Well, I was joking about, I used to have a God alarm. So I had this like watch that would vibrate every hour to remind me that everything is God. Boom. And then I remembered. And then I would make a purpose of like reading spiritual books to remind me, because I found that the mind, this is the trickiness of the mind, would always go back and start to believe in separation, would always slide back down the hill and go into the muck and say, oh, life's not good. I'm unhappy. This is a difficult life. Oh gosh. Oh, I'm depressed. Oh, I'm sad. Oh, I'm happy. Right? Everything that the mind has a tendency to go into the worst case scenario too. What will be the worst case scenario if I do this? Rather than walking to it and saying, I'm confident, everything is God. Such confidence. What do you need to worry about? So this is the power of the spiritual teachings. They're actually very practical. One could live in fear of separation. I have to protect myself, or things are scary, and therefore I'm always like this when I'm doing things, because I'm scared that I might get hurt, or I might get insulted or attacked or whatever. So my life becomes very narrow. So the practicalness is, if everything is God, then I'm so vast and broad, I'm capable of anything. My healing is, I could heal this moment. This body could be completely healed, and only by the grace of God. So it's breaking through the limitations of the mind that says, I can't do this, I won't do this, this is too hard, or this is too scary, or I'm separate from you. What separation? Who told you that? Who are you? And then you can then come to the basic fundamental question of life itself, which is, who am I? Am I all the programming that my father and mother and sisters and brothers and society told me? Well, you are a lawyer, you are a retired person, you are a human, you are a male, you're a female. Does anyone really know who you are? Why can we not think for ourselves and consider, well, am I in this body? Let me see. If I had a doctor open up this body and try to search for me, would they be able to find a little mini-me named Brian somewhere in there? They could keep searching, maybe even in the very center of the heart. Is there going to be any Brian there? I don't know. I can't find him. My surgeon can't find me. Keep searching, no matter. Maybe I'm in my big toe. I don't know. But we still haven't found that me. So therefore, this body that's walking around that we keep referring, when we go into the, to get our, to go to an airport and when they say, well, show me who you are, and we show our passport or we show our ID. This is me. Maybe you're not smiling on it. This is me. Are you sure? And then we seem to identify ourselves by that. So then we say, well, then we explore, because we have to discover who we are first before we can discover what God is. Because if we have all these misrepresentations of our own self, how can we know what God is? How is that possible when we're so deluded with our inner programming and karma and conditioning of believing ourselves to be a limited human being inside a mind and a body? So then you look at and you consider the mind and you say, is this mind me? Well, if it was really me, then I could easily control the mind. It was, okay, mind, stop. It's time to relax now. Okay. Is your mind stopping? Doesn't it just keep running away? So are you your mind if it keeps going and going and going and you have no control over it and it just thinks what it wants to think? It comes and it goes, and a thought here comes here, and then it goes. It's always temporary. So it's like it comes and it goes, and it comes and it goes. It's never permanent. I'm saying, why not seek the truth, which is permanent? The mind is a fluctuating thing that comes and goes, and it can change. I could really love pumpkin pie today, and tomorrow I could really love apple pie. So am I an apple pie lover or a pumpkin pie lover? Do you see what I mean? How from moment to moment, the mind can change, and therefore it cannot be you, because it's not eternal. It's not permanent. So seeking something that is permanent, that is beyond the changing and fluctuations of the mind and life itself. What is that? What is that eternal presence that is always there before the birth, during birth, and after? After, I say, before birth, during life, and after death. Who are you during all those? You never die. You're never born. You are that presence which runs through all. Now the question is, can you realize that? And so this is the key, the first step to understand and realize and know that. And that is what Gajendra did, which is a complete surrender to the Lord. At the feet of the Lord, saying, I do not know who I am. I do not know where I came from. I can no longer believe in these thoughts anymore. Please show me the way to my true self, my eternal self, beyond all of my conditioning. That is the great prayer. So when you reach a point that Gajendra reached, where he had no more past and he had no more future because he was so present with death right now, that how could he think about the future or past anymore? When you're young, you have the world ahead of you. When you're on your deathbed, you're here right now. There's nothing left. As they say, you're toast. Then who are you? And then you evaluate, and when you become so present and you realize that you can't stop your own death, then you go, okay, I surrender. Please show me the way. I don't know who I am. And it's a very powerful moment. That's why death is so extraordinary, because it brings us back to God. It's the most powerful moment that can actually bring you back to God. You did all your desires, you traveled to all those great countries and you did all this, that you finally come to your own presence and you question, who am I? So there's no need to fear death. Welcome it, embrace it at every